Welcome back to class today. We are finally at long last going to be finishing up chapter 7. So just to remind you where we left off, what we learned last lecture is that if you take the uncertainty out of someone's income and give them their expected income with certainty, well, they prefer that. So in other words, people are risk averse. And then we said that if we gave someone an insurance contract such that the premium is set equal to P times Q and the payout is set equal to IH minus IS, then that would succeed in giving us a situation where income uncertainty is completely removed. And with those terms, no matter what happened to a person's health, they would be guaranteed to get their initial expected income. All right, so far we've looked at everything from the perspective of the insurance customer. So let's switch gears for a minute and put ourselves in the shoes of the insurance company. If you're an insurance company and you sell a contract like the one we set up, what will happen? Well, if your customer stays healthy, you'll bring in the premium. If you're not so lucky and your customer gets sick, then you'll still bring in the premium, but you'll have to pay the payout. Okay, your customer has some probability of getting sick, P. So with that, the insurance company could actually calculate their expected profit. The expected profit of the insurance company is going to be equal to the probability that their customer will get sick times the profit they'll make if their customer does get sick, which will be R minus Q. And then to that, you'll add the probability that the customer stays healthy times the profit the insurance company would make if they stay healthy, which would be R. If you just distribute and cancel things out, you'll see that the insurance company's expected profit is 0. Okay, we call this fair insurance. It is fair because the insurance company has an equal chance of winning, which is what would happen if they made a positive profit, as their chance of losing, which is what would happen if they made a negative profit. So in other words, they don't have an unfair advantage over the customer. Okay, so now let's suppose an insurance company does want to make a positive profit. What would they need to do? Well, they would need to tweak the terms of the contract relative to what we have set up now. And specifically what they would need to do is they would need to charge a premium that is greater than P times Q. Okay, now that I've told you that, let me show you the math. If the insurance company sets an inequality such that their expected profit is greater than 0, then in the place of expected profit, we could just plug in the expression that we saw just a few minutes ago, and we could work things out. So that would give us negative P times Q plus R is greater than 0. Well, if you just move the negative P times Q over, you get R is greater than P times Q. In other words, what this says is that the premium, according to this inequality, is greater than the probability that the insurance company will have to pay out the payout times the amount of the payout that they would pay out. Okay, we call this unfair insurance because the insurance company is expected to make money off of the customer. They sort of created this scenario where they're more likely to win or make a positive profit than they are to lose or make a negative profit. And they did this by inflating the premium or the upfront amount that they charge customers. So fair insurance has R equal to P times Q, and unfair insurance has R greater than P times Q. One thing to keep in mind is that if insurance is unfair, in which case the insurance company has a positive expected profit, then that means that the extra money that the insurance company is getting, it's kind of like that's coming out of the pockets of the insurance customer because we didn't wave our hands and create any extra money in this model. So if one party is collecting extra dollars, then that's going to be because the other party is losing some of their dollars, which is clearly unfair. So this means that when the insurance company has the advantage, the customer has the disadvantage. So if the insurance company is charging everyone a premium that's greater than P times Q, which means the insurance is unfair, then what would be true is that the customer would be making less on average than their previous expected income. In other words, the insurance company is kind of exploiting the customers. Okay, there are two dimensions along which insurance contracts can be characterized. We just talked about the first one, so insurance contracts can be either fair or unfair. The second dimension is that insurance contracts can be either full or partial. So far, full insurance is what we've been assuming, and full insurance is when income uncertainty is fully eliminated. Under partial insurance contracts, what is going to be true is that income uncertainty is going to be only partially eliminated. So there would still be two possible income outcomes that the consumer or the customer might realize. It's like if you get sick, the insurance company will pay a part of your medical bill, but they won't pay all of your medical bill. And so in the event that you happen to get sick, your income is still going to be a little bit lower than it would be if you were healthy. So there's uncertainty. You might get income that's a little bit lower, or you might get income that's a little bit higher than that. Graphically, this would be consistent with a consumer still sort of like running between two different dots. So if they're partially insured, then the two dots should be tighter together than they originally were. But critically, there will still be two dots, one of which the consumer or the customer will land on. They just don't know which one they're eventually going to realize at the end of the day. Okay, here's the visual. Since full insurance simply means we've erased all the uncertainty from a person's life, and they know with 100% certainty that they're going to have a particular income, what that's going to mean is that on the graph, there's going to be only one possible outcome that the person could realize if they had full insurance. However, if the insurance contract is partial, that means there's still a little bit of uncertainty in this person's life. So maybe they'll have this smallish income, maybe they'll have a little larger income. Graphically, this would mean, again, that there would still be two dots on the utility function, one of which this person will realize. And whether they'll realize the top dot or the bottom dot depends on what their probability of getting sick is. One thing to just kind of note as you have this graph in your mind is that if the dots get tighter, then the utility deficit will at least get smaller. So as a reminder, the utility deficit is like the gap between what we've been calling the path and the utility function above it. If there's partial insurance, at least that gap's not as big as it used to be. So under partial insurance, we've kind of eliminated some of the uncertainty in a person's life. Their income isn't going to be extremely affected by getting sick, in other words. So it will be slightly affected because they'll still have to pay a portion of their medical bills, but it's not like the possible outcomes that they might realize are incredibly extreme. So uncertainty is diminished a little bit. And as a result, this thing that we've been calling the utility deficit isn't quite as big as it was when they were completely uninsured, because some of the uncertainty that they don't like, some of it has gone away. Okay, mathematically, what's going to be going on in terms of full versus partial insurance is that if a person has full insurance, then their payout will be equal to IH minus IS. In other words, the amount of money they get as the payout when they're sick will be exactly equal to their medical bills. Alternatively, if the insurance is partial, then what's going to be true is that the payout they get when they're sick will be less than their full medical bills, or the payout will be less than IH minus IS. If structure helps for you, I'm going to give you a 4x4 table that shows you kind of the defining features of all of these different types of contracts. All fair insurance contracts will be such that the premium is equal to P times Q. All unfair insurance contracts will be such that the premium is greater than P times Q. So it's kind of like the insurance company is charging too much for their insurance. Okay, now let's look at full versus partial. All full insurance contracts will be such that the payout is equal to IH minus IS. partial insurance contracts will be such that the payout is less than IH minus IS. Okay, here's a complete bonus, which is not in the textbook, but hopefully it'll be helpful. When I was learning this on my own and trying to understand how all of this was working, there was a picture that I had in my head, and so I've just recreated the picture, and I'm going to show it to you because sometimes pictures are easier to understand than math. So suppose you take a person who doesn't have insurance. They've got two possible income utility outcomes, and suppose these two outcomes, or these two dots, you just kind of peg them in the ground and then string a rope around them. And then imagine you've got this big giant pulling back on the rope. Okay, somewhere along the diagonal of the rope, there's going to be a location that coincides with the person's expected income. And again, that expected income is going to be based on their probability of getting sick. Okay, now really use your imagination. So if the giant pulls the rope all the way back and the two dots converge to 1, then that is the same as full insurance. So in this situation, there is now no longer any uncertainty. There aren't two dots anymore. There's just one single dot. So there's none of this, maybe I'll get the top dot, maybe I'll get the bottom dot. There's just one dot, no uncertainty, so full insurance. So the two dots converging is full insurance. Okay, if the giant also pulls back in a direction that's straight and he doesn't twist his wrist so that the person gets off of their expected income, then what that reflects is the fact that the insurance is fair. Okay, recall fair insurance means the insurance company isn't taking advantage of the customer. So at the end of the day, the income the customer has on average is still equal to their original expected income. Okay, let's think about what unfair insurance would look like. Suppose the giant did twist his wrist so that the person got off their expected income. In that case, they're earning less on average than they were before they had insurance. So in the picture, if the giant pulls all the way back but twists, then that would be consistent with full insurance, only one dot, but unfair insurance because he's pulled the customer off of their original expected income. Now let's think about what partial insurance would look like. If the insurance contract is partial but fair, then the fairness tells us the giant will pull straight back. He doesn't twist his wrist. But if it's partial, then the giant wouldn't pull all the way back. And the reason is because under partial insurance, your income when you're sick is still different than your income when you're healthy. And that's because the payout you're getting doesn't fully offset your medical bill. So your sick income will still be somewhat lower than your healthy income. So critically, there will still be two dots if the insurance is only partial. Finally, let's just think about what partial and unfair insurance would look like for completion. If an insurance contract was partial and unfair, then the partial component would mean that the giant would not pull all the way back, and the unfair component would tell us that the giant would also twist his wrist. Okay, so that was what was going on in my mind when I was learning this. If it's helpful, great. If it's not, you can ignore the last few minutes. So at long last, we've reached the end of the chapter, and I'm going to give you the 4 takeaways, and then we'll break for question. Takeaway number 1 is people are most happy when there's no uncertainty. Takeaway number 2, insurance can be used to eliminate uncertainty. Okay, number 3, if the insurance that someone gets is full, then income uncertainty is completely eliminated. And lastly, if the insurance is fair, then the insurance company doesn't make money or have a positive expected profit by charging a high premium. All right, that is it. We will break for 10 minutes, and after that, I will meet up with you again for the exercise. And your very last exercise for chapter 7 is the following. Suppose you have a person who has a P equal to 0.2. If they get sick and are uninsured, their income is IS equal to $40,000. If they stay healthy and are uninsured, their income is IH equals $50,000. The first question is, under a full unfair insurance contract, what would the person's premium be? And as a hint, your answer may be an inequality. The second question is, under a full unfair insurance contract, what would the person's payout be? And again, your answer may be an inequality. It could also be an equality. So make sure you have 2 responses and provide both of those before the end of class, and enjoy the rest of your day.